Hey everyone, this is Pig for Life, and in today's Transformers video review we'll be taking an early look at a prototype for Unique Toys O-02 Alberich, their version of Rippersnapper from the Decepticon Terracons Combiner team. This is the second in their Ordin series, and he will make up the left arm of their Abominus. So let's go ahead and go straight into robot mode review since I don't have any packaging. So here's the front. You can see Alberich, which means dwarf apparently in German, which I don't really get why they would name a shark-like monster dwarf, but okay. Here's the back, the other side, and as you can see, he's very much a robot with a shark on his back, which isn't to say that's a bad thing, because that is exactly how the G1 figure and cartoon were, so it's very loyal to that. Let's go ahead and jump right into head sculpt, and his head sculpt I think is probably the weakest part of this figure. So I really like the head sculpt that they had with Troll. That was very like monstrous. They had fangs and everything like that. This guy, he just has a generic head and is kind of boring. Like, I thought they would carry on the whole monstrous creature kind of look to him, but it's not a bad head sculpt, just kind of generic. The head is on a ball joint, but it has very limited range of motion. He barely has any bobble. He has no down to speak of, and very, very little up. So I even questioned whether it was on a ball joint or not, and I couldn't see very well. But I mean, just for the fact that he does have some head bobble makes me think he does have a ball joint under there. Just very, very limited. Other articulation, he does have shoulder articulation, nice ratcheted shoulders. The shoulders go up this far before it reaches some interference. He does have weird double jointed elbows. The top part is ratcheted and the bottom is just a friction joint, but it does give him a really great range of motion. You can see he goes really far with that bend. He does have a bicep swivel, nice and tight on this test shot. And he doesn't have any wrist swivel, which is unfortunate. He does have a little bit of up and down as far as transformation goes, but you know, no wrist articulation always is a bummer for me. His hands also have no articulation, just a one molded piece. Just like Troll, he does have a weird low waist swivel, like it's very low down here, right above his crotch, and you might run into some interference depending on how you have the tail of the shark in the backpack. But if you move it back, which you can get it rotating all the way around. His legs can move forward 90 degrees. They can move back 90 degrees as long as you move it out to the side and don't run into his tail. He does have a bicep swivel. He does go out 90 degrees this way too. I think I may have showed that. I already forgot. And coming down to his lower leg, he does have a 90-degree bend at the knee, which is great. And he has a little itty-bitty heel, which is optional, I guess. You can fold it up or fold it back out. That has a little bit of articulation. And then the toe, as far as articulation, can bend down for transformation purposes, really. That's really it for articulation in robot mode. I guess you can look at his extra arms here, his alt mode arms. I believe the official transformation has them up here. I kind of like them down by his waist, just like peeking out here. I don't know why. I mean, I just kind of like them there. And if you want, you can actually have them folded up and kind of more hidden on the back if you'd like that as well. His dorsal fin does have the two guns that are reminiscent of the G1 figure, and the dorsal is actually articulated as well. You can move that around. And the guns here actually unpeg and act as guns, handguns. And it's a little bit different than the G1 toy. The G1 toy actually had the fin and dorsal fin and guns as one piece. And so when you took out the gun off his back, he wouldn't have no dorsal fin. So it's nice that they kind of updated the figure so that he actually kept the dorsal fin even with when his gun's detached. So his guns plug in as you would expect. They don't plug in all that deeply just because the handles are pretty short. I guess because the dorsal fin, to keep it in the dorsal fin, they wanted to keep it short so it didn't stick out too much. But it only comes halfway into his fist, which is kind of weird. I would wish the handles were a little bit longer. But they do stick in really well, so that's the biggest thing. As long as they stay firmly in his grasp, I'm happy. I will say that I wish they did have more peg holes. Like, Troll was filled with peg holes and pegs for his weapons that they could plug into his arms, to the side of his backpack, and his back, and everything like that, in all his modes. And in this one, in Alberich, he doesn't have any other options besides the dorsal or the fists. I actually would like something, maybe they could have hidden a peg in the bottom of the alt mode feet, and that would have acted like a gun like so. I think that would have been a nice addition that wouldn't have detracted from the overall look of either modes. So less playability with his weapons. When you plug them into the back though, they do have notches to make sure that you don't go in too far and to keep them even on either side, which is nice. The only other option, accessory he does come with is the hand for Ordin, his left hand. So again, Alberich makes up the left arm. The hand is pretty nice, nicely molded detail, has some nice paint. I have some scratches because this is the prototype. I think his hand is only on, it's only on a swivel. He does have a ball jointed thumb that's kind of reminiscent of Mastermind Creations' hand. It's very much in the same look. It still has that big back of the palm that Mastermind Creations' hand did as well. Their Predaking. Their Rex. The one thing I will note though, it looks like all fingers are the same length, or exactly the same pieces actually. So they're ball jointed, which is very, very nice. But the fact that the middle finger and ring finger are the same size just make it look like an odd hand, especially when you fold it out. And they look kind of short, mostly because this piece here comes out further than the rest of his hand. It just makes it look like he has stubby fingers. And again, unlike Troll, there's not really many display options for this. The only thing that I've seen is what a lot of other reviewers, like Vangelis, I think was the first one to do it, was to fold this up onto his hand and make it look like a forearm shield. Which, yeah, I guess you can do. He kind of looks like a shield, but that's just kind of a stretch. I was hoping for some kind of storage option, or that this could fold up and you can kind of do it like the Combiner Wars where this turns into like a gun or something like that. But yeah, this is just a hand, or at least as far as I can tell for now. Again, no instructions with this test shot. So really quickly, let's do some comparisons. I asked some of the forum members what they would like to see compared. So obviously they want to see him compared with Troll. So you can see that Troll is a bit taller, which makes sense to me just because he's a leg and he's an arm. But they look really nice together. Some of the paint apps were changed on earlier prototypes. So some of this purple here was pink initially in the early test shots. I think they changed it to just bring in some more cohesive look, to bring together some of the figures together, so the purple matches Troll's. Yeah, but they look like they're buddies, that they're teammates. Alright, so let's get him out of the way. Some other comparisons that people asked me to do were with the Warbitron series. So I actually brought in Airburst because that's the only arm that we have from that series so far. These guys also look pretty good together. I think in terms of overall look, he looks more in line with the Mastermind Creations crew, which I actually forgot to pull out. So give me 1 second and I'll pull him in. So here he is with Tigress. Another arm. This is from Feral Rex, obviously. And then lastly, well, actually not lastly, but one of the last ones that I'll do is with Streak, just so you can get an idea of what he looks like with some of the cars from the Masterpiece line, if that's what you want to display him with. And of course, MP10, if you want to do a Masterpiece comparison, that's what you want to do. Alright, so I think this guy has a place could find a place in both the Masterpiece or Chug lines, really. He is kind of a Voyager-ish size, a little bit bigger than a Deluxe. But aesthetically, I mean, for me, Masterpiece really means that they have realistic alt modes, but this guy has a monster random alt mode, so it's not something you can compare with something in reality. So let's get this guy transformed. We're going to handle transformation a little bit different than I usually do, just because I don't typically show the combined mode in test shot reviews, but since it's like literally halfway between the robot and alt mode, we're going to go ahead and transition to arm mode both ways, from robot to alt and then alt back to robot. Okay, so to get started, let's go ahead and deal with the arms first. You're going to flip open the front of the forearms for both arms, and then you're going to want to rotate the fist all the way in. And you'll notice that when you actually close this up, it doesn't close all the way, it doesn't sit back flush, and that's by design. Honestly, kind of a poor design. I don't like that. I wish it would sit closed back up all the way. But I mean, it's better than no on forearm covers like Control had, but I guess this one also trades off not having wrist articulation, so I'm hoping that the next guy that they release for Ordin will have both wrist swivel and forearm covers, and then I'll be happy. We can also deal with the head. Let's just lift this up, push the head back, and then pull this down, and you're going to want to tilt the alt mode head forward just a tiny bit. It doesn't go very far, so that's as far as you can go. We'll go ahead and fold up these arms. Make use of the double joints. Again, I don't have the official instructions, so I'm just kind of guessing. What I do is kind of fold them up. The images I've seen, they fold up like so, something like that, but what I did is a little bit different. Is I folded in the kneecap right into the space between the forearms, the forward arms of the alt mode, and they sit in really well like this. So I think you should do that. I think it looks the most clean. So just rotate the forward arms and then kind of tuck in between this kneecap, and you can, the kneecap is somewhat articulated on a pin, so you can kind of adjust that to get it all situated pretty nicely in there. As far as the dorsal, you're supposed to leave this, but I kind of like it flipped up like this, kind of having a spike facing up. Lower body is pretty easy, but it's kind of innovative. So let's deal with the heel. Just fold these up, fold in the toes on both sides, and then instead of the typical way legs transform, folding backwards, you actually unpeg the forward part with these panels here. And then they're on a very interesting kind of zigzag accordion-like joint in here. And it's hard to explain or even show. I'm just going to hold them upside down because I find this is the easiest way. You want to keep this peg facing forward. My first instinct was to go ahead and fold that in, but then that doesn't actually work. You need to actually keep this forward, this peg forward. So I hold onto it like this, and then I bring in I try to scoot it back in. And it's hard to describe. But again, the most important thing is you have to keep this black part with a tab facing forward, so it sits, otherwise it's not going to sit in. See? So the black tab is still facing forward. And then you can close it up. Same thing with this side. Again, it has a tendency to want to go and fold in. You don't want to do that. Just keep it held tightly as you push the leg in. And then partway down, it will be like, okay, that's what you want to do. And it'll sit right for you. Then you want to pull both the upper body and lower body, like I did by accident here, and then you can extend the hidden elbow joint, which swivels at the top and the bottom, which is great. Let's see, then you can bring in the alt mode fist. There are tabs on either side of the legs. Just want to sandwich the fist in between both of them. And we're almost done here. The last thing you want to do is reveal the combiner port. So you can pull that down, flip this front panel down, and then flip the combiner port down. And then you have Ordin's arm, his left arm. So again, there he does have a nice ratchet elbow, which goes pretty far as the combiner goes before it runs into interference. You can use a little bit. I mean, it's just really just some play where you can use the legs, the robot mode legs, but really you're going to be using that dedicated joint for the most part. Okay, let's go ahead and bring in some arms for comparison. So I'm going to bring in, well, let's see. So let's do a fair comparison. Let's go from port to the end of the hand. So let's go ahead and bring in Rex. This is a Tigress. So you can see the arm is actually longer on Ordin than it is on Rex, like considerably so. Even to the end of the arm is like at least almost 2 centimeters probably. And then the end of the fingertips, not including these additions that I put on, it's pretty noticeable. So this guy is going to be pretty massive. Let's go ahead and bring in Warbotron's arm. So this is going to be kind of the opposite in the sense that we have the combiner port here and the actual peg there. So if you do this, line those up pretty closely, they're about the same, maybe a little, there's maybe a couple millimeters on Ordin that's a bit longer, but I don't have the fist for him yet since they haven't released the fist for Warbotron's first release yet. But that should give you an idea that Ordin's going to be pretty massive. His arm's going to be pretty long. Again, really nice inclusion of that hidden joint, so you don't have like the gappy legs. And even if they did use the legs as a joint, the hips as a joint, they're together. There would be no real leg gap, so which is really nice. So let's go ahead and continue on to alt mode. So let's just get rid of the fist first. Just split the legs. You want to rotate the waist back down and collapse it. Now the difference here, again, let's just go ahead and flip this dorsal back the way it was, so I don't mess something up. So what you're gonna have to do up here is the shoulders. Well, let's fold this up first. Actually, the shoulders are on this panel that you untab this way, and they're on a ball joint. So you're gonna want to rotate them down, like so. Flip them around, and then they tab into the sides of the robot mode legs securely. Like that. And then you can rotate them around 180 degrees at that bicep swivel and swing the foot down. And as for the knees, I just move them all the way forward just so they don't get in the way. But then here's where it gets kind of cool. You want to extend this, oh sorry, I didn't mean to tab these back together. So you want to extend the tail. Let's get these out of the way just so you can see. I mean, you don't need to get rid of these, but it's hard to see what's going on with the tail without it. So what you're going to want to do is underneath the tail, you'll see that there's a little arm, I guess that's what you would call it, that you're going to want to pull out, and then that extends like so. You want to straighten that out. Okay. Then you're going to want to collapse the chest downwards, like so. Coming back to the lower body, you'll actually see small grooves that are designed right here. They're very, very small to hold that little piece in, that little arm in. Now you can tab the two halves together. And then lastly, you fold in the tail. The tail has two pegs that correspond to the top of the feet that were folded in. Like so. Alright. And then just extend the arms here, the front arms, and you have Alberich in alt mode. Let's go ahead and peg these back in. Yeah, pretty interesting transformation. The legs and the collapsing chest, expanding chest are really cool, and they're really fun. So let's go ahead and look at this almost T-Rex-like shark monster. So we'll take a look at him in front, the side here. You can see he's really long. The back, the other side, look from the top. You can see that articulating arm there. And the bottom. The bottom is pretty clean. Alright, so he looks really good. He does have some articulation at the neck here. I was mentioning before, it does a really good job of covering up the neck gap here. It has a little curved piece. It reminds me of Generations Rat Trap. He had something like that too. His mouth does open. You can see a little bit of... Oh, I guess technically they say you're supposed to flip this around. Not that it really matters all that much, but I guess when you open the mouth and look straight in, you won't see a face there. Unless you wanted to, then you can do that. It's kind of cool. The teeth also are designed so that they actually interlock. He has kind of a grin too, which I like. He has the evil grin when his mouth is closed. His shoulders are on a small ball joint. You don't get a ton of motion out of them, but you can go all the way around. He does have this elbow bend. No articulation at the claws, any of the claws. There's just one molded piece at the bottom. I wish there was some kind of wrist articulation. I think that would have been cool. Nothing in the mid-body at all. Because of the tail and because of the way these panels work, there's nothing that allows you to do any movement. There's no crunch, really, because of the fact that these are secured into place. That's really disappointing. I mean, he is kind of just like a block at the midsection. The tail also doesn't have any articulation. I mean, you can unpeg it, I guess, and move it around, but that's kind of cheating. It's not real articulation. The legs are the same as the arms, so you do get that ratcheted joint. You have the bicep swivel, you have the knees, you have the double jointed elbows that now become the knees, and then again you have that kind of double jointed ankle that gives you a good range of motion for the feet. Again, the feet aren't articulated. You don't have any heel articulation, just that one joint, that double jointed piece at the bottom. But that said, he holds up really well. Like, he looks really good. I wish he were a little bit shorter. I wish this could collapse a little bit more. Like, even just to fill in this gap here would be really great if they collapsed just a little bit. If they had moved this, made this a little bit shorter or something like that. I don't know how they could do it. I'm not an engineer, but just thinking out loud, if they could have collapsed it just a little bit more, that would have made this guy look a lot cleaner. Right now he just has kind of like a weird gap all around his midsection, and also the lack of articulation in the mid body is a little disappointing. He is really front heavy, I guess, but he actually can get, I mean, I think I've had him even bending down really low and still have him balanced, like horizontal almost. Okay, so I can't do it now, but I've had him basically like horizontal before, and he still held up really well. Alright. Again, there's really no use for these guns except for, even in this mode, except for the dorsal, which again is unfortunate. A lot less playability than Troll than I was expecting, but still really fun. You saw the transformations, pretty fun and innovative. So let's get this guy transformed back into arm mode and then back into robot mode. So the first thing you're going to need to do before anything else is deal with his tail, because of the fact that it's held into place and you're not going to be able to really expand the chest. So go ahead and unplug the tail here, split the legs to free up this arm, and then you're going to, let's just move that to the side. I find that the easiest way to deal with this. So just go ahead and fold this up a bit. Let's just leave it here for now. Then we can unpeg the shoulders or hind legs in this mode. Okay. Then we can come up to the upper body and expand it. I'm gonna expand it pretty far. And then let's just fold up the forearms just to get it out of the way. And again, just rotate this around, using the ball joint, and then swivel forward. And it should tap into place very easily. Very easily in a good way, not like loosely. It's very secure once it's in there. Alright. Go ahead and collapse this tail, this pin, into the tail, like so. So it hides really well. Get this dorsal back facing this way. And then go ahead and plug in the hand so that you have hand mode pretty much done. Just extend at the waist and then fold up these, rotate the arm and then fold them up. And again, just adjust them in whichever way you'd like to keep everything kind of compact. That's good enough for now. Oops. There we go. So now we're back in arm mode. Well, except with the exception of the combiner port, I guess. There. So we're back in arm mode. And then very quickly, let's go back into robot mode. So just flip this up, close the panel, lift up the head, bring out the robot head, make sure that's in place there, split the legs and get rid of this guy. Open the front panels of the legs. Accordion the legs out. Use that tab to tab into the front panel. You just want to make sure everything's squared when you tab that in. You can collapse the waist, or the elbow joint, I guess. Flip out the feet and the heels. And then you can open and rotate out the fist. The fist is kind of hard to get out. I was kind of using this double jointed part to help get it out, but it's really hard, so I've just been using a spudger just to help me get everything out. So see, that's how I did it. I used to do it, but the wrist joint has to be pretty tight to make sure. Oh, the shoulder keeps popping out. Alright, and there we have Alberich back in robot mode. Let's flip this up a bit. So yeah, really fun guy. I do wish he had some really, I do wish he had some more playability, just because I was expecting more based on Troll, who I really, really love. I kind of wanted to see if we can do some kind of mix of modes like we did with Troll. Like I kind of tried to flip this up and try to get the head down, but you can't really get it down more than that. It's prevented from doing that by the molding. You can kind of almost open it up and almost have his head peeking out like that, which would look kind of weird. But yeah, you don't get a lot of other stuff, but that shouldn't be a knock against this figure just because Troll was so good, and that's why I'm doing the comparison. But as a standalone figure, this guy's really good. The plastic quality is really nice. Again, Unique Toys has stepped up their game a whole lot in terms of plastic quality, build quality. The engineering's always been kind of cool with all the figures that I've messed with, but they've really done a really fun job with the shoulder panels. I kind of wish they were more white there. They're gray, so they are definitely distinct. So in both modes, you see this gray panel that really does kind of stick out like a sore thumb. So I'm hoping that they make that white in the final release, but I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be the case or not. But yeah, I think that's really it for the review this time. Again, one last disclaimer: this is a prototype, not a final release. So there probably will be some improvements and changes to this figure. Again, there were changes already between the two test shots just with paint apps and some other changes. So this guy should be coming out very soon though, so I don't think there are going to be a lot of differences between this and the retail release. But yeah, again, test shot. I may go ahead and do, once this guy comes out and final retail, I might do an update and show you guys any differences. But yeah, I highly recommend this figure. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. If you want to share this video with your friends to show them what this figure is going to be like when it comes out, please do that. And as always, if you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button and follow along with all my reviews and news. Last but not least, go ahead and click the link here if you haven't already to enter our Peg for Life and Toy Dojo giveaway that we're doing until the 19th of January 2015, and the winner will be announced on the 20th. Alright? I think that's all for today, everyone. Have a good one.